Hello and welcome to Dynamics Update. Tonight, as usual, I have my friend and colleague Gustav Sundblad. Hello, Gustav.
Hello, Johan. How are you this evening?
I'm fine. I'm a bit tired. I went to a hackathon this weekend. It was really fun.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it was really cool. How are you today?
I followed your journey on LinkedIn.
Yeah,
I'm doing great as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm doing great as well, and I'm honored that we have a guest here tonight as well.
Yes, and this is a guy who I met almost 2 years ago in Portoroz in Slovenia.
Oh.
I was on a bus for 2 hours to Venice with him, and one of the things that we talked about was the local business data installation of F&O. Hello, Oscar. How are you doing today?
Hello. Nice to meet you all. I'm doing good. Just starting up our day over here on the western side of the U.S.
Yes.
Yeah.
So tell us a little more about yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm a senior software engineer on the now called Plex infrastructure team at Microsoft. The Plex infrastructure team is in charge of managing all of the infrastructure for the SaaS ERP F&O solution, as well as the overall on-prem product. In addition to that, we're also now doing we're in charge of the infrastructure for the sandbox from Dataverse, plugin executions, as well as subnet delegation workloads for also the Dataverse side of things.
Very cool. Yeah, it's an ongoing transition to Dataverse or to PPAC really from LCS. And Johan, you mentioned before we started recording as well. LBD is still the household name, or is it the Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations on-premises installation, or is there what's the going term for the local business data?
Yeah, so the marketing term is the one you just said. When we're talking within familiar circles, we'll just call it LBD because it's so much easier than that whole mouthful.
OPD. Yeah. Okay. All right. On-premises data. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yes.
So
yes.
Just to get in touch with my abbreviations here. But it's been, you mentioned as well, yeah, I mean, both you and I come from an old AX background, AX 2009, AX4, Axapta, and so forth, with all of the on-premises installation with the server tier clients and Citrix installations and remote desktop services and all that stuff. And you said, Johan, I think to quote you, a lot of customers, when we went into AX7, it's like, how hard can it be? It's just servers, right? So, but it's not really comparable, is it?
Yeah, no, not at all. The back in the 2012 days, I never, I think I've installed 2012 a couple of times only, so I'm not that familiar with those systems. I'm more a modern D365 guy. But yeah, I heard that those days it was, you got your installation disk, you go through the setup flow, and your machine is set up, so to speak, your AOS. Here in the D365 world, it's a little bit different. I'd say, you've got a new SLU set of certificates. You've got the introduction of ADFS, ADCS for certificate management and issuance within your private KPI. You've got the big thing, which is Service Fabric clusters, and as well, your orchestration services that contact LCS for application lifecycle management. That being said, one of the biggest advantages I think that the new system has is if you need to scale up, you just add a node, and as long as that node is the exact same as the other AOSs that you have, you're up and running in an instant once the node has been added to the Service Fabric cluster.
Yeah, because I think that was what sort of my background, because I went over to the AX/F&O Dynamics ERP side from the infrastructure side when we started talking about Fabric. We started talking about 10 gigabit interfaces. We started talking about having network-based storage instead of the traditional LANs with fiber channel connectors and stuff. So what I realized fairly quickly was that I mean, first of all, you can't reuse your old hardware, almost never, because it requires new stuff. And also that if you have people trained on infrastructure, they are probably not trained to use this kind of infrastructure, because this is more similar to what Microsoft is doing in Azure and stuff. It's more like a fabric hosting solution.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, some people, it depends, right? So it depends how old your infrastructure is, whether you moved into sort of a hyper-converged infrastructure early on. In that case, yes. I mean, the hardware should be pretty good to do it. And then, of course, some like ADCS and ADFS services, if those are at the end of the day are native in the Windows system ecosystem. But yeah, I mean, Service Fabric is the biggest differentiator, without a doubt, when it comes to F&O deployments in on-prem.
And I mean, Johan and I have lost touch. At least I can't speak for you, but I would imagine we've lost a little bit touch with the infrastructure side since moving into cloud deployments. And I mean, from a statistical point of view, I haven't touched an on-premises deployment of Dynamics 365 yet. I hope to maybe avoid it if I can, because I like the cloud deployment so much. Sorry, Oscar, but I mean,
no problem.
It's interesting. I mean, I have no idea, and it's rare that we actually encounter customers or clients that do it. Maybe that's because we're in a different business, or it's in Sweden. I'm not sure. I would imagine cloud matureness is different between regions, of course, and also, of course, it's a lot about legal demands and regulatory demands. But do we have any numbers? Like, is it 10% or is it 5% or is that a secret number?
Yeah, none that I can share without maybe asking someone first.
Yeah, not pushing.
We've got customers. I can confirm that. And, you know, as you said, there's an infinite number of reasons why some people would choose, or some companies or government agencies, or, you know, whichever customer we have, which is on-prem. Mostly, obviously, it's more due to tight regulations around data handling and certain scenarios or certain certifications that we cannot yet meet in the cloud, but we are trying to make sure that we comply with and ensure that customers feel comfortable in the cloud. Because at the end of the day, it's much less headaches for the customers. There's so many more functionalities, and you know, all the AI stuff is only propping up for the cloud right now.
Yeah, of course. So. Yeah, I remember a colleague of mine told me once, that was back in the day before it got as mature as it is today, that he said running on-prem is pretty much like setting up your own little Azure in your data center. And something tells it that kind of rings true still, right? Because it's very cool. And I think the hardware side, Johan, I think, of course, nowadays the hardware is mature enough, so maybe that's not the main concern here, but it's more like the administration and the governance and the responsibility. Because I at least been in conversations with customers when it's not really regulatory. It's like, nobody feels better. We can use our own, and we don't trust the data in the cloud. It's like, but you run Office 365, yeah. So what? Yeah, but it's the same thing. So you have these kind of conversations sometimes, and there are fewer and fewer nowadays. To be fair,
yeah, definitely.
But I think it's more like the main. You need to have a team running this, because the responsibility is really on the customer side. It shifts totally, right? Or at least a major part of the responsibility shifts to the customer side.
Yeah. I mean, it's not easy by any means, and you know, you need to suddenly have, especially for the production systems, right? You need to suddenly have on-call people that are like, "Oh no, power went out," or "No, went down," right? Which, you know, can always be solved if you co-locate your servers with a private cloud company, for example. I find, so in our team, what we do for running our LBD environments is we run on top of Azure Stack HCI, which is sort of like, it provides a little bit of cloud management. You know, it's connected to Azure. You can We're going to be exploring now maybe deploying some of the VMs from Azure directly using ARM templates, which would be pretty nice because grabbing the images from Azure as well itself. That certainly simplifies the bare minimum of, okay, you're setting up your networking, you're setting up your machines and storage and all that. So it, there's ways you can make it a little bit easier. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm
so using the administration, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Azure Stack HCI and Azure Arc. I'm guessing that would make it a bit easier, so that you don't have to do everything like nuts and bolts level.
Yeah, directly on Hyper-V.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm guessing also that when you're talking about ARM templates and Bicep and things, I'm guessing that is partly because we are moving away from LCS as well. So some of the things done.
So let me just clarify that. That's only for us, for our team to deploy the machines. It's got nothing to do with the actual product itself. That's just for us, for managing basically and deploying new environments from scratch and all that fun stuff.
So I'm guessing that because I've understood that there are a lot of like PowerShell scripts involved to get the solution up and running today, and that some of the things are still being triggered from LCS. So you still need to have an LCS project set up and stuff. But I'm guessing that now that LCS have a scheduled deprecation, things will happen on the LBD side as well.
Yes. So can't really talk to what the future is going to be like once LCS goes away. We're still trying to define what the requirements are. We're still trying to gather feedback and trying to figure out what the best solution will be in that scenario. But yes, we'll probably have to come up with a replacement for LCS for LBD customers specifically.
Okay, but
OPD LCS perhaps would be a good abbreviation.
OPLCS?
Install and you spin up your OPLCS. Yeah, you can call it overpowered or on premises. You can.
It would definitely be overpowered. LCS is very big, so the single instance LCS for single environment might be a bit too much.
It's just the next finish, right? How hard can it be? You can, as long as you have the hardware, you can just run it. No, but I would imagine that's a lot of complication, and it's complicated for us still in the cloud to handle all of the different components, all of different, especially if we work in retail, which is sometimes you have this like hybrid of you have some components there that you need to run on-prem, but they are not nearly as complicated. Yeah. But we are three technical guys here, and I think if we have some listeners that are more on the application side, maybe someone, hopefully you, Oscar, can explain to an application consultant, functional, what is Service Fabric, and I mean how does that fit into the Dynamics 365 picture?
Right. So you can consider Service Fabric as a sort of orchestrator and bringer of machines. So essentially, it's a software that is going to basically manage VMs for you in a way that you're saying, hey, these VMs form the cluster. And I have these VM types that are going to be in charge of hosting some software. And then there's going to be this other VMs that are going to be in charge of hosting some other software. And then the other side of it is application lifecycle management. So I can tell Service Fabric, hey, I have a service that I need to run, figure out where you want to place it. Obviously I can tell it, hey, place it on this node type or place it on this specific node, or say, hey, I want resource governance. So when this service runs, only allow it to use X% of the CPU, or only allow it to use X% of RAM or X quantity of RAM, right? And then the other big thing as well is it provides this hyper availability. So, you've got all your machines spread out. You could have it spread out, across in Azure. It would be the best example I can provide, right? You've got your cluster across different availability zones. So if entire availability zones dies, you still got your other availability zones that are still alive. You still got your servers on those zones running, and hopefully all your services are up because you correctly distributed them across the zones.
Yeah, okay. Bringer of machines. That should be your tagline on Dynamics Minds conference. That was really cool.
Yeah.
Bringer of machines. I'll make a note of that one.
So just a stupid question. I've always thought that Service Fabric is sort of the Microsoft version of Docker and Kubernetes. Is that sort of?
It is the Microsoft version of Kubernetes. Yeah.
So it's a different container technology and it's a different management technology.
So Service Fabric didn't really start out, as far as I know, with containers.
Okay.
Containers were added afterwards. It does support containers, absolutely, but they were added afterwards.
Okay, good. Yeah, I'm just curious because I haven't had a chance to do things with the Service Fabric by myself.
Yeah. No, you can.
No, that's the drawback of moving into cloud that we've done, Johan, nowadays. We kind of lose traction. I still have clients that run AX 2012, and sometimes it's kind of a mindfulness journey for me to kind of log on to the server. I can open the event viewer. I can do all of these things.
Can run Windows Update and stuff.
Looking at. I just try to steer clear of those things. That's all. There are teams better suited than me to handle the security patches, but I can dig into stuff, right? I can do a SQL profiler and I can do stuff like that. Sometimes I miss that in cloud, but on the other hand, you have a lot of good engineers helping out on the other side. So hopefully it all works out in the end anyway.
Yeah, I mean, visibility into your data and what's happening is much easier here. You just pop into your SQL server, you log in, and you're like, oh, we have way too many indexes right now. Let's clean some up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I mean, one of the things that is the obvious scenario for LBD is as you said before is like compliance reasons. Are there other reasons why? I mean, are you having today, for instance, hosting providers that sell LBD as a service, or is it always on-prem with customers?
So I'm not sure. I doubt that there is that scenario going on. Yeah, I don't think so. It's mostly. Yeah, no. I think the most common scenario might be partners hosting it on behalf of customers. That is allowed by the licensing. Anything that is public cloud is not allowed from a licensing perspective.
No, then you have to go via the standard route.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, at that point,
that knows about the infrastructure as well, and they can handle it. Yeah.
At that point, if you're already
basically doing
putting it in the cloud, you might as well just do it through the SaaS version, right? There's no.
Yeah, of course. There's more of a licensing thing with the I'm not sure if that's valid anymore. The CSP, and you could handle the licensing things separately, but the actual infrastructure is still run by Microsoft, and it makes sense then not to mix things up, because then you would have the same scenario. I think a lot of varying quality in people living up to the evergreen updates, right?
Yeah.
That's at least something I imagine would be a problem. But how does that on the LBD side to stay up to date with version updates and so forth? Are they following the same principles that you need to stay up to date with the application updates, or are they kind of free to go?
Yeah, no. From a versioning perspective, so the one version lifecycle policy, that is exactly the same as in cloud.
It still applies, yeah.
Whether it's N-2 a few years ago to N-1 now, with I think we're doing 2 releases a year, something like that, or 4 releases a year. I can't remember anymore.
3, I think. Yeah, 2 or 3. Yeah.
So yeah, no, that is expected as well for on-prem customers. We don't actively push the updates. I think is the main difference between cloud and on-prem. So we won't forcefully push the update to you. But yeah, I mean, you raise a support case and you have a bug, you might be asked to upgrade because we've already solved it in a future version. So why? There's no way we can backport it to your version now, right?
Exactly. They get the same constraints, but that makes sense. I mean, otherwise it would be very difficult to manage. And then you end up in the same story as we did with a lot of AX installations, right? Because you have no idea what you're booting up. You could have built anything on that machine, so it's hard to take responsibility. But it still says Microsoft in the corner here, so it's important to take responsibility for that.
Yeah. Well, because I mean that is also one of the reasons why I've heard customers at least thinking about the LBD solution is because we don't want to do like Microsoft's update cadence. Mm-hmm. That's one of the arguments that I've heard, and I've always tried to tell them that, yeah, of course you could skip the updates, but in that case you're still unsupported, so it's basically no difference. You're as unsupported as you are on the
cloud,
on the public cloud. So.
Yeah, and I mean that was always the main topic. I think, or has been still, a lot of like people are scared about these updates, right? Because we have to test and test and test. But the more you stick to standard and the more you try to kind of adhere, it's not really that complicated to do two updates a year. You can still schedule. You have a lot of flexibility there to adapt. So it's not, if you put in the effort, it's not that complicated. I'm saying now, of course, there are differences in installations. I'm well aware that there might be a lot of complexity out there, but I'm just saying I've never seen that as a pitch to kind of go to another direction, because you have to test anyway, right? So otherwise you can just run Excel or something else.
Yeah, go back to spreadsheets.
Go back to spreadsheets, yeah. Now with Copilot, I mean, that's really powerful.
Yeah.
And I think Excel is the most used ERP in the world, but if you look at it scale-wise, I would imagine.
Yeah, I don't doubt it at all. That one spreadsheet that controls the entire company.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. That's a risk thing, right? It should be converted to a Power App at least or something.
Exactly.
No, but I think I was at a Microsoft in Germany, I think, in the beginnings of Rainier on AX7, and there was all with these discussions with people that were really scared about the cloud. So I think back then, the reasoning was, okay, we provide on-prem installations to give you guys a chance because you just bought a new data center, you want to capitalize on that investment, or you want to kind of feel the cloud for a while. But I got the sense back then, at least, that there was always like a temporary solution to bring everyone up to the utopia, which is the cloud. But now I kind of get the sense that's because of regulatory demands and so forth, that you still get new customers that do on-prem, right? So it's here to stay. I would guess, at least.
So we do have enough demand to keep it going, yes. And we had when the product was released, it did get we did set a finite date of 2027. So like a 10-year policy. But we did recently remove that restriction. And, we're fully embracing the modern lifecycle policy, which is, it's there until we say it's not. And when we say that it's not there, we'll give a 3-year heads up before we stop providing any sort of updates to it. So yeah, right. We so far haven't set a limit to it.
Okay, that makes sense. 3-year limit is good. You'll always have someone who's complaining about it, at least. And let's see, I'm not saying I hope for it to do it, but I really do need to look into a little bit more on the infrastructure side just to get an understanding. I think it's really cool when you read up upon Service Fabric, and it's like you say, it's kind of auto scale. So that's super cool. But in the end, what we're scaling is F&O, right? It's X++. So if you don't have code or logic that is suitable for scaling, doesn't matter how many AOSs you throw on at it, it's still just going to do a poor job. So it's something that we need to be mindful about. Because I heard someone back a while ago that was like, yeah, it's cool, it's Azure, you can just auto scale it if something goes slow, but that's a dangerous line of thought. You have to be mindful of going down that direction, as you could do with on-prem, perhaps. Always find an index somewhere here. You could throw in some more RAM at the problem or something like that, but you still need to be mindful about building things that are capable of scaling. Then you can really leverage Service Fabric if you build it from scratch with scaling in mind.
I mean, I think the easiest thing is, when we hit the holidays, all of those retailers suddenly, hey, we're going to have a massive influx of orders, and our supply chains are need to prepare for that, right? So that's that's the nature of being able to scale for the demand, right?
Absolutely. And in those cases, it also implies that, I mean, it's not, sometimes you need to understand that Service Fabric provides you a way to scale, right, with the application. But if you don't, it's not as easy as just throwing out another commerce scale unit, because that requires setup. You have to move channels across it. So it's never flick of a switch. For user sessions, I would imagine, yeah, sure, we have 100 more users. They're going to use exactly the same. Perfect use case for autoscale. Just bring up more servers capable of handling those sessions. But for running actual operations, it's sometimes not as easy as flicking a switch, but at least I have the capability to do it. It's easier now.
Definitely.
Yes.
It's very cool. Johan, any further questions? I mean, we have a lot of things to learn. I would imagine you guys are, you have quite the backlog to move from LCS to PPAC or whatever we say. It's going to be OP LCS perhaps. I'm looking forward to hearing the end of that story.
Yeah. I can't share, but hopefully we can share something once we know a little bit more what direction we're going to take with that. Maybe the local agent will have more services and do more things, which is our orchestration service, or maybe we'll still have some cloud component. Who knows?
In the end, you always want someone who's an ITM, and they always like, at least I do, to have this little button. You can click deploy. You can have this little. So if you can hide a lot of fancy complexity around it, my strong suggestion is leave a button or two in, so you can actually press that deploy button, because it really feels good, even though it kicks off a lot of automated stuff in the background.
You'd be surprised how much stuff we have in LCS. It's not. It's all the all the KB articles around, what's in each update, all of the logic around, hey, can you actually apply this update first or not? Just a lot of validations, a lot of processes that they're the same across cloud and on-prem, but they're built into LCS to just reshare the code base. We don't want to write things 2 times.
Yep. Cool.
No, it makes sense. I think it has been a key to success for a lot of implementations as well, and a key to frustration in many cases as well. But in the end, we have a lot of cloud and on-prem installations running out there. So I think that's credit to good work.
Yep. Yes. All right. If you don't have anything else, Oscar, then we'll say thank you a lot for coming and sharing with us and teaching us how LBD works. That's cool.
Thank you.
And hope to see you around.
Yeah, absolutely. So we actually, I think it's next week or so, we're having a little bit of an LBD conference going on. So if anybody is interested, I think we posted the details into the LBD Yammer group. So if anybody's curious, we're going to go over some architecture stuff, certificate, and a few other topics around troubleshooting. And I think we're also going to have like a general roundtable as well for people to ask questions.
Cool, great shout. Is it on-prem in line with the discussion?
No, so this one's going to be virtual. It's I think there's a lot of interest in Europe for this sessions, and I'm in the US, so it's a little bit difficult to bring that physically, but
we can probably drop the link in the show notes as well. If it's not NDA or anything, we can just drop the link to the Yammer discussion, so you get some more traction. That sounds great.
Yep.
Good.
We'll do that. So thanks a lot, Oscar, for coming and joining us.
Absolutely.
And
thank you for having me.
Thank
see
you
around.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.